Welcome back to the Witch's Way podcast. I'm Kat.
And I'm Jamie. And tonight we are exploring how to work with the goddess Lakshmi during Taurus season. So that name is Lakshmi. It's a
Lakshmi.
Hindu god. Yeah, Hindu goddess.
Lakshmi. Lakshmi.
Yeah, Lakshmi.
Okay. So Lakshmi is the Hindu goddess of wealth, prosperity, and abundance, which aligns beautifully with the zodiac energy of Taurus, which is ruled by Venus and is all about
all these
beauty and material
and comfort.
Material.
And, really imbibing.
Material possessions and things like that. So let me just describe what Lakshmi looks like for you. First of all, she is seen sitting, at least this picture. I don't know if she's depicted this way in every image.
Yeah, you can find different ones if you look her up, but there's a lot of commonalities between them. And so I chose one that I used in my own practice. Mm-hmm. So this is a picture I printed off the internet.
Okay. So Lakshmi sits in a pink lotus flower on water, and she's got like 4 arms, mm-hmm. 2 of which are holding pink flowers pointed toward the heavens. The other 2 one is spilling gold into a bowl, gold coins, and the other one is holding kind of looks like a potted plant of some sort, although it's in a gold, it's like in a gold or brass,
like vase,
vase or something, but it's a green plant, I think. Also around her in her background is a pretty sky, a field, an agricultural field being tended. There's it looks like it might be corn. It's something that they're growing there, but there's does she have any particular foods that are?
No, but she's just, I think there's a close connection to harvest, like to the harvest.
Yeah, because there's a tractor in the field too.
Yeah.
And like most Indian goddesses, she's got the little dot here on her eyes and a crown that's glowing around her.
Like the halo crown.
The halo. Mm-hmm. And she's wearing like a long necklace with some things dangling at the bottom. So her outfit is kind of her attire, her dress is
pretty ornate.
And also I feel like pretty typical for Indian attire, imagery that you see,
like the gods and goddesses of the Hindu culture, definitely. So I always think this is interesting, and I did have to look this up for this podcast, but like, why are the gods and goddesses in Hinduism presented with multiple arms, or legs even? And so when I looked this up, it's actually that it symbolizes that they have immense power, like to be able to do many things simultaneously.
Okay.
Right? So like they're so powerful they can multitask the hell out of anything. Like
it's multitasking at a different level.
At a high level. So it also so in imagery, like to know the difference between if you have a mural, if there's a god or a goddess and then like a human, the god or goddess always has multiple arms. So maybe, and I don't know a lot of the cultures pictures for stories, I've only delved into like a little bit of them, and the goddesses mostly, a couple of the gods, but that's how if you're looking at a story of something that's going on, you're like, oh, that's immediately the god or the goddess because it has multiple arms or multiple legs, signifying that they're like superhuman
capabilities.
Yeah, they have superhuman capabilities.
Like they can multitask,
like all over the place, doing it all
on steroids.
So specifically, it's like divine functioning beyond what humans could do. So that's why they're meant to look inhuman, because they're not humans. That's how they separate.
Well, she looks human except for the multiple arms. Except for the arms.
Exactly.
So who is Lakshmi? To understand who she is, let's look at how she was made.
Okay,
when you say made.
Yeah, made. The creation story. Her creation story, which is not just hers alone, but listen, I do not know everything about the Hindu religion and all of the stories, but I know it is deep and it is a lot. I've spoken with many people about it because I buy jewelry from people who make it or who practice this religion. And I always ask them things like, what's this symbol and what's that? And I'm just so curious, to compare like thoughts and ideas, because Hinduism is one of the places where karma was born. Like they are the teachers of karma, and it evolved, which is also just a whole nother podcast and a fascinating story. I swear. When I was researching some of this, I'm like, oh my God, I have 5 more podcasts lined up for this because it's so interesting. But yeah, so she was kind of brought out of creation, and this is her story. So the story, if you guys want to look this up and get more specific, if this just fascinates you like it did me, this is called the churning of the ocean milk like milk, milk. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's a creation story, but there are basically gods and demons, and not demons like in Christianity. Demons are just the opposite of what a god would be, and whereas gods are like light and order and knowledge, demons in the Hindu religion is more about greed and pride and unchecked desire. That's the best, like when you're overzealous about something where it's a bad thing. You heard that saying, too much of anything's a bad thing.
Yes.
Like, or anything's okay in moderation.
Yeah.
That plays into this. That is what they believe. There's always stories of balance and light, and we're going to see this play out. But okay, so you have these gods and demons, not Christian demons, and they're cosmic siblings, which is really interesting because they have different mothers, but the same father. So like one mother had the demons and one mother had the gods. Super interesting.
Oh, wow.
I know.
Okay.
It reminds me a little bit of the Greeks, just a little bit like the Kronos and all of that. But so these two opposing forces, which you can just think of as like light and dark, the self that the shadow self, they wanted to try to obtain the nectar of immortality. Now that's weird for us, right? Because most gods are immortal, but for them, that's not their case. And they wanted to obtain this nectar of immortality as a gift, which I will tell you, I never find out if they actually ever get it. I don't think they do. But in trying to achieve it, they called the place of the universe where all things were possible, they called that the ocean of milk, which I just think is so fascinating. And the ocean of milk was hidden the essence of immortality was hidden in the ocean of milk, like way down deep. So I kind of imagined like the earth being our actual ocean, and that they knew that there was like this primordial mix, which is true scientifically that we know now. Primordial mixes come from the depths of the ocean, and like if you believe in evolution, that things evolved because of these other hot spots on the earth. So they believed that it was lying in the depths of the ocean milk. Why milk? But we'll get into that. Sorry, this story excites me and I'm all over the place. All right, they came together. These two opposing forces came together, and they said, how can we churn the ocean milk? They decided to use a mountain as the churner. Imagine like churning butter, and you've got the stick part. And then how they were going to kind of tug of war this, they used a fucking snake. A snake.
A mountain and a snake?
A mountain and a snake.
Okay.
So the snake thing comes back to the Christian, Adam and Eve thing for me. But we're going to get into the associations. So in using the forces of like, imagine they're trying to stir the world's oceans with a mountain and using a snake as like a pulley system to go back and forth. First light has it, dark has it, light has it, dark has it. You have these two opposing forces working together to see what comes up out of the ocean as creation, because they're not in charge of what comes up. They're just like, we're going to stir some shit up and see what happens. Human nature, in my mind, I know these are gods and demons, but like in my mind, that's human nature. Stir up some shit and see what happens.
That's us.
So many things came out of this ocean of milk. So, there's like a list of things if you guys want to look into the story of it. But the milk ocean is really like a metaphor for the infinite, unmanifested potential of the universe. They were like, if we stir up enough stuff, things will click together and it will build something amazing. And they knew that they wanted this like secret immortality, life force nectar, right? But instead of that, while churning and many treasures emerged, so did finally Lakshmi. And she rose out of the depths of the ocean, of this ocean milk, and she was radiant and seated on a lotus flower. And I know the lotus flower has a lot of different meanings, but the fact that it's like pink and she's very feminine and all, like it felt like a divine mother. In my mind, when I was reading it, that's what it felt like. So her appearance brought light and beauty and hope to the world. So in their creation stories, it's like one thing will come up, like poison. They actually name it poison, even though it's not called that in the Hindu language. It's called like halal, which is very interesting. I'm not kidding. Halal, like that's how it's spelled. But it created these other things. But she was also a result of that. And since we're focusing on her in Taurus season, like she was part of that effort where two opposing forces brought her forward. And I just love that.
So the significance here is that her creation was born out of a collective effort.
Right. It was like many people joining in to bring about
light and dark,
yeah,
gods and demons.
Yeah.
As a side note, she's also worshipped during
Diwali, yeah,
which is a holiday that happens in the fall, sometime around Samhain,
yeah,
that invites light or prosperity and light into one's life.
Right. It is. She is like a prosperity being, but there's a. I don't want to say there's a trick to her. It's not a trick, but there's a balance to her. You'll find so much balance within the Hindu stories. Like they're just amazing. Like you can't get unless you give. That's a principle within this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'll tell you, the ocean milk, the first time I read the story, I was like, what the fuck is that? And then when you think about what is the first thing that life gets, like as a human that's born, it gets breast milk, like mother's milk.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So the fact that they made the ocean milk as being as something that could create more new,
Mm-hmm.
it's such a feminine thing to me, like milk.
Yeah.
Only female mammals, yeah, like that's where that comes from. And I was like, wow, so they called it ocean milk. And then I just want you to know the rabbit hole I went down, because I was like, why is the galaxy called the Milky Way? Because I was like, is there a fucking connection? I know, this is how my mind goes. I can't help myself. But no, actually,
many rabbit holes were followed to get to this story. This podcast.
I get so fascinated of how all of these collective stories really actually relate to each other.
It's amazing that you can get your work done after so many rabbit holes.
It's very hard. And to make it short enough to be like
just a podcast thing, not an all day.
Yeah, it's crazy. So the milk was like the mother's breast milk to me, the creation, the life, like. I found that connection. I was like, oh wow, like why would you call the ocean milk? That's so, because the ocean it is baffling, right?
Yeah, it is.
So what I thought was interesting about when you look at the Milky Way galaxy, and I didn't find on the internet any connection, but in my own mind, I made the connection because the Greeks and the Romans and probably people before there was electricity and light, right? The night sky, you could see the galaxies. You could see the Milky Way arms. You could see that cloudy, milky substance in the sky. And they made this correlation of the Milky Way being the milk of the gods, or a lighted path where spirits go off to after they die. So there was like life and rebirth, light and dark. There's these opposing forces. Again, it always comes back around, and I get so fascinated. The other thing was the snake character. Like, I don't know how many creation stories I know that use a snake, but obviously because I was taught Christianity first, of like Adam and Eve and the snake, when I see snakes as a different symbol, and then knowing, like, when I got into my witchcraft practice, that snakes represented the power of women to create everlasting life, and like the infinity symbol and the shedding of the skin is like how we change. And so I have this really close connection to a snake as a symbol. And did they need a snake to churn the mountain? No, they're gods. They could have just pushed that shit back and forth.
Yeah.
But in the creation story for them, they had to add a snake, and there's an element there that's unexplored by me so far. But I see it as a connecting thing that goes through multiple creation stories. Yeah. And then just the light and dark forces, like, dark not being evil, but dark being that if there is light, then there is also not light.
Yeah.
Like everything has its opposite. And that's huge in the Hindu religion, as far as everything has its opposite. And that's how karma sort of evolved. And this religion, I don't know if you know this, but this is like so if we're in the 2000s, 7,000 years ago, and there's writings going back, but it's really cool to see how it evolved from, like, first it was very like black and white, cutthroat, no interpretations. And then 3,000 years later, I think after people were practicing it and trying to figure it out, they're like, oh, we're going to actually evolve the term of karma. It's no longer about like, that's what happens when you do something. It's actually like this give and take pull that you can change at any time. So exploring that, I was like, we now need a podcast on karma. So interesting. Yeah. So if we get into Lakshmi's story, here's the story I want you guys to remember about her, because that was her creation, and it's cool. And it's also more things than her that got created on that stirring of the milk ocean. But there is a story about Lakshmi called the Curse of Lakshmi's Departure, which really relates to like Demeter and Persephone for me. Sorry, I'm just saying. And then it happens in fall. I'm telling you, the little invisible strings that go through all these stories. Okay, so the Curse of Lakshmi's Departure is about a king who was so consumed with greed. Right, we've got a man consumed with greed. He hoarded the wealth and neglected his duty to his people. Like his whole focus was like on him being rich, very selfish. And Lakshmi was super unhappy with his selfishness because she gives wealth, right? So to watch somebody like hoard it for themselves, she was upset by that. So she left his kingdom because of his selfishness. And when she leaves, like she basically takes all her blessings with her. This is in a time when like if you didn't do the right thing, the god or goddess would desert you. So with her departure, the king faced like famine and poverty, and the people were at an unrest. You know, it was like nothing was settled, nothing was good, nothing was happening that was productive. And he realized that he had made a huge mistake. And in order to gain favor with the goddess Lakshmi again, which I just love, like a man begging at her feet, okay, he basically asked her, like, what do I need to do to get back in your good graces? And he already knew, like, she didn't have to say anything to him. She never responded to him. And he basically said, I know what Lakshmi demands. She demands like generosity and gratitude. So he distributed his wealth through the entire kingdom, and then he served the people selflessly. He's like, I'm your leader. I'm not meant to rule over you and dictate your lives. I'm meant to give you my life in service because I'm here for you. Mm-hmm. So this flip of leadership for me, it hit me. I was like, and that's what a good leader does, you know? Yeah. Like they don't try to rule, control, belittle, take from, be the bigger guy. Yeah. They actually are a servant to the people. And so many people don't think about it like that in the Western world, I don't think.
I think to me, you know, leaders lift others up.
Right, exactly.
I mean, they use their resources and their wealth and their fame or their knowledge or whatever to help others elevate and grow and also become leaders. I mean, that's what a good leader does.
Yeah. I think when you stay in that selfish, stagnant, there's no growth, it's all about you. You're not really seeing anybody else. You're not trying to help anybody but yourself. Like things will fall apart. I believe that is just, and that's what they kind of consider karma, right? And we think of that as sort of like action, cause and action. What is it?
Cause and effect.
Cause and effect. Thank you.
Yeah.
But they see it in a different way. It's like, no, you got to do the act of like.
Well, I think people who hoard their wealth and are really selfish are actually, unhappy, even though they have all these material things. They lack really personal connections or a purpose, on a purpose in their life.
I agree.
Because if it's just like, I'm just going to have all the money and all the things, and then you don't get to share that and see that joy expressed in other people.
Yeah.
In the sharing part of it, first of all, the gratitude that people would have in you sharing, and then the feeling that you get from doing something good for someone else. I just feel like that you would be seriously lacking a whole side of yourself, almost like light and dark. Like this is the dark side.
All the dark. Yeah.
This is like the dark side, because this is the unevolved person who's like, no, I'm too afraid of scarcity.
That's what I was gonna say, is fear. Yeah. When you're hoarding things like that, you have fear. You don't believe it's actually yours. You're like, no, if I let any of it go, I'll do nothing.
Yeah. So the scarcity mindset, the fear mindset, all of those things, just that's the dark side.
And when I think about, we're going to get into the connection between Taurus and Lakshmi, but when I think about our physical world, we're truly not physical beings. We're in our physical bodies so that we can learn the lessons of the physical world, so we can elevate our spiritual selves, because we don't have all these problems where we're originally from, wherever the fuck that is. So we come here to experience all that shit. And what blows my mind about people here on Earth and like greed and scarcity and all of this is that they forget that none of this shit goes with you. You can fucking hoard money all day long, all your life, and it doesn't change anything about what happens to you in the end.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
But what what does change is when you live a life that's full of like gratitude and giving and experiences, living for the experiences rather than the stuff.
Yeah.
Like it changes you. You really live a full life.
Yeah.
I mean, I see the difference of like a king sitting in a castle, like hoarding everything and never leaving because he doesn't want to be taken advantage of or robbed, or he's got to count his money every day or some shit.
Yeah.
And then the other side of the king that's like out in the public and like giving to people and asking how they're doing and interacting with families, and there's growth and happy. And in one, you can see a person who is not smiling and they're afraid and they're stuck.
Yeah.
And the other person who's like, this is a wonderful life. Look at all the beauty and joy around me. Like I love interacting. I love this connection.
Yeah. Well, what comes to my mind is Jeff Bezos and his ex-wife, Mackenzie Scott. Is that her last name? I think her last name is Scott.
Yeah.
So she got $1 gazillion or something because she got half of what when they divorced, she got half of what Amazon's value. And she has been giving away her money, like to charitable organizations and things like that. She's been giving it away. And when you see pictures of her, she looks very happy and content and fulfilled. And
she looks like she's shining.
She does look like she's glowing. She does look like she's glowing. Yeah. And she's putting things good out. And then when you see him, he's got sunglasses on. He's got, to me anyway, my impression of him is that he's trying to present himself like this badass dude that has everything. But, I mean, really how many yachts and homes and shit do you need before it becomes boring and just, you're like, oh, ho hum, another yacht,
like what? Okay. Now we're going to go way off topic because I don't know. You remember when I was in my psych degree, I really considered becoming a sex therapist. I really, really did, because of my own struggles with like my body image and sort of how I felt about getting into sexual relationships. I was very reserved and closed off and like, no. Like I really needed a lot of trust. I really needed to have something more. That was you not
trusting.
Well, exactly, right? Like I just wanted to explore that avenue further. So I thought becoming a sex therapist would be the best way to heal myself, right? Yeah. That's what we do. We learn things so that we can heal ourselves and then teach others.
Right.
And of course, Tony was like, I'm very uncomfortable with that idea. He was not thrilled. He's like, oh, fucking what? A sex therapist? Like, what are you? Like, he didn't even know what that meant. I think it just boggled his mind.
Yeah, exactly.
He probably didn't even know that was a job out there. He's like, who has a problem having sex? Like, what is that? And there's these intimacy problems that it's really not about the act of sex, but it's about being able to be intimate and be open.
Vulnerable, trust, all those things. Yeah.
I totally forgot where the fuck I was going with that story now.
You were going to be a sex therapist.
Yeah, but I don't know why that was related to this.
Okay.
Oh my God, I don't know. It wasn't generosity. I don't know. Damn it.
Okay, well, I'll think of it later. Maybe we'll come back to you. And in the meantime, let's look at some symbolic associations between Lakshmi and Taurus. And Taurus and Taurus season.
Because they fit together so well.
Okay, so the representation of abundance and prosperity. So the shared energy, both Lakshmi and Taurus encourage the cultivation of wealth and resources, not just for personal gain, but to create a harmonious and prosperous environment.
Yeah, definitely. And then, I
mean, Taurus is known, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Taurus is known to be very generous. They love beauty and all the nice things, but they're also known as they're very giving. Yeah. And so they have all of these things, but they're also willing to share them with people.
Yeah, I don't know many Taurus, but I don't know any that hoard.
Well, we have a Taurus in our family.
I know, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know many others. I know one.
Yeah.
And she doesn't hoard anything. Like,
no, she's very giving. She's very generous.
Whatever you need. Yeah.
Probably to a fault, actually.
The balance again. You have to have a balance.
Well, and I only say to a fault is just because of the reciprocity. Yeah. Like if you're always the one giving and people don't give back to you, like, I mean, I don't want to say like you give to them, but give back. And the reciprocity is not there in some situations that I've seen. So.
Well, it reminds me of like the king and his people. There's got to be a giving, right? Yeah. I mean, I'm sure if it was anything like the kings of old or the stories we've heard, it's like you collect tax on the people in the land. So they were giving to him, but he wasn't providing anything back. Yeah. So there's got to be this mutually beneficial relationship of
Mhm.
giving and gratitude,
Mhm.
you know? So getting into like sensuality and beauty, because when I think of our Taurus baby, I think of definitely beauty
Definitely
and
beauty.
sensuality, and like just that is like a main thing because of the Venus
Ruled
part
by
of it.
Venus,
Yeah,
you know,
Venus
the
part
planet
it.
of love.
So Lakshmi really embodies and embraces like the beauty and grace and refinement. Like those are her qualities. So her connection to like flowers and especially the lotus, it mirrors the sensual appreciation. And when you look at her picture, you'll see the colors that represent like passion and love, pinks and reds and sometimes purples, but there's always these colors of love surrounding her that we associate with love.
Yeah.
And then Taurus, being ruled by Venus, is the planet of beauty and love. So it's a very good mirror across the two places, you know? So the season of Taurus is really about indulging in the earthly pleasures. And I always think of that word indulge when I think of Taurus, like indulge in it. Let yourself say okay. Let yourself get
They're known
the
for their
massage.
Taurus are
Yeah,
known
like
for their
indulgences
indulgences.
and
Yes.
the physical things.
Yeah.
And enjoying nature. You know, I didn't find as much with Lakshmi as the nature thing, just the agricultural.
Right.
And I guess that's an enjoyment in nature, is to plant, to reap and harvest, and then to, you know, enjoy your bounty.
Share your bounty.
Yeah.
Too.
And it's just finding like beauty in the simple things in life. Yeah. So the appreciation of beauty and sensual delights reminds us of enjoying the pleasures and responsibilities, but mindfully. Like to do this in a way that's not, we don't take too much.
Right.
Like, I couldn't fucking imagine working for a deforesting project where you're cutting down trees. It literally
would hurt your soul.
I'm aghast. Like,
yeah, for sure.
I'm pearl clutching right now. What?
So another area or another, you know, area where Taurus and Lakshmi kind of their energies are shared is stability and grounding. Because Taurus as the earth sign is, you know, they're grounded in the earth. But both promote the idea that true wealth comes from stability, whether financial, emotional, or spiritual.
Yeah. I think stability is something that I know that our Taurus craves and needs to feel safe and comfortable, and can then, I think you need stability before you can really indulge. At least that's my experience. Like, I don't indulge unless I feel safe and comfortable. And I think that is probably a lot of people, but in earth signs, it's like, I need the stability before I feel like I can go indulge in something, like whatever your indulgence is. Yeah. So then we have gratitude and generosity. So Lakshmi teaches the importance of gratitude for blessings being received and encourages generosity as a way to keep the abundance flowing, which this is where we separate like a lack mindset. When you have a lack mindset, you don't receive. But when you have like this generous, or, you know, just being grateful for everything, it's like it just flows to you. You know, more blessings flow, because there's a difference between that fear. I think lack mindset is more close to fear, feeling fear, where generosity is like, yeah, let it flow, man. Love. Like, there's plenty in the world. And then with Taurus, energy can be generous and nurturing, valuing relationships and sharing comforts with loved ones, which is how I think of my sister, our Taurus baby. Like the comforts of her home, to have an inviting home, I think has been a desire of hers her whole life. Yes. To invite people into her space, you know, that is really, I don't know, beautiful, aesthetically pleasing, smells good, like that whole vibe.
And then to cook for them.
And to cook for them. Oh my gosh.
To share food, break bread.
Yes. So both remind us that giving thanks and sharing our abundance create a cycle of positivity and prosperity. Positivity and prosperity. Yes.
There's also the connection of earth and nature between Lakshmi and Taurus. Lakshmi is often associated with fertility and harvest. Her blessings extend to agriculture and the bounty of the earth. Taurus energy thrives in the natural world, connecting deeply with the cycles of growth and the beauty of Earth's offering. Both celebrate grounding energy of nature and emphasizing the importance of living in harmony with the earth.
Which I, at my core, believe is like one of the first values of being a witch, like morally for me, is being in harmony with the earth. Yeah. Really getting into like, how can I live in harmony with where I'm at? Yeah. And, you know, my problem was always like, worrying about all of the places that I can't protect and communicate with, and like, you know, it would get too big for me and I would feel overwhelmed and like I can't do enough good.
Right.
I had to bring it way back to like smaller. What can I do in my yard? What can I do for the animals that visit my place?
Yeah. So instead of up here in the sky where you're looking at the whole world, you're
the
like
whole world, and I'm like worried about the
zoom
Amazon,
down.
I'm worried about this place, I'm worried about that place, and the whale,
all the animals
fucking
and
everything,
all the
oh
forests
my
and
gosh.
everything.
Yeah, I'm like, I used to say in my days when I was still working through a lot of shadows with that, I used to say that Earth is like a horrible place. I was like, this is fucking hell. This like Earth has so much.
Wow, you did?
Yeah,
I'm so shocked to hear that.
I know. Well, I was traumatized about all the shit I saw in the world. You know, I've been in 2 war zones, and like I've been in the Japanese still kill whales. Like it fucks me up.
I've only ever heard you say that Earth is our classroom.
It's our classroom.
Our classroom.
But I think when you're in it and you want to make changes, it feels like you're just every time. What I felt back then was every time I wanted to make a change, I felt like I was getting nowhere. And I tried to take on change for everybody rather than just for myself.
Yeah. And that's why you couldn't get anywhere. We become
overwhelmed. Right. Yeah. I couldn't get anywhere because
you can't get anywhere because you can't.
I didn't feel like I was enough to do anything. And now I'm like, I just do what I can do.
Yeah.
Like I had to go through that shadow work of like not taking on the responsibility of everybody else being fucked up. It's like, I can only do what I can do.
I remember we just had a recent lunch and you guys ordered Beyond Burgers.
Oh shit.
And Jamie's came out with a piece of bacon.
Fucking bacon on
it.
So that means they cooked my vegetarian burger.
A little piece of bacon, probably a little square or whatever. And she's like, that's a piece of bacon. Oh, so they cook it on the same grill with everything else. And then the conversation went to Jolene saying, I used to really
flip out
about that
I wouldn't
kind of
eat
stuff.
And I probably wouldn't order anything else.
Yeah.
I didn't feel safe to.
Yeah.
Because when we first went, I went vegan first after learning all the horrors of the world. And then I became vegetarian and found my way through that. But then when I ate sushi in Japan and that was my life. Like I missed fish a lot. I gotta say, that's the one meat animal that I was like, oh my God. And I'm a Pisces, so I eat my own kind, I guess. But it was really hard for me. It was hard. And so when I got with Tony, we were together probably 3 years. And I finally was like, you know what? If we go to places that are really careful with how they treat stuff, I started being more lenient on my choices.
Yeah.
And now that's been like 15 years ago that all this started. Mm-hmm. And so when I realized that they don't have the best practices where like, my veggie burger is being cooked on top of like old cow meat grease or whatever you call that.
Yeah. Where they just fried some bacon.
And it fucking stuck to my sandwich. That is so rude. I'm just saying, like, don't give me an Impossible Burger with bacon on it. It kind of defeats the purpose. I don't know. Like, it just, and again, Jolene and I, 12 years ago, we would have been like, get the manager.
Yeah. Like there would have been a scene.
Like, you don't cook your fucking veggie burgers separate. Almost everywhere I go, if you can see the kitchen, they have a separate grill for them because they're just reheated. They don't actually have to cook. Not really.
Oh, I mean, Beyond Burgers?
Impossible Burgers kind of do because they've got the juice in it, which is gross. Like, they really wanted to make it look like and that's what grosses me out. I'm like, I don't want that shit.
Sorry, we got off track, which is normal for us. If you've been here before, we go down the rabbit hole with our own little stories. But that's what that made me. It made me think of how the change in you guys, because I remember being in Kansas City and I don't know, I think you and your sister were together and there was a guy delivering beef to a restaurant.
Oh my God.
Like a truck, like a delivery truck for beef going to a restaurant. And she's yelling at the guy, making a big scene about him, and killing animals
the meat
industry and all this stuff, attacking him. I mean, that's the kind of shit that she would do when she first started down this path.
She was on a crusade for about 4 years.
Yeah, crusade is
like on Facebook, publicly attacking people, posting all the horrible videos. I was like, girl, listen, I did my research and I switched. I don't go back to any of those old videos of like the awfulness of it.
Yeah.
But I think that with her, she once found pleasure in food without the knowledge. And then when you have the knowledge, it's like, oh my God, now I have
Now
knowledge.
you
What do I
have the
do with that?
responsibility.
Right. You
With
just act
knowledge comes
accordingly, like whatever you
responsibility.
want. And I think as we get older, we kind of think you can't control everything and you can't flip out over everything and you can't just.
You're spending a lot of energy.
Yeah.
Do
And
that.
do I need to do that?
And,
it's like,
and what are you getting from it besides being outraged?
Very upset.
And
going through all the emotions.
Yeah,
it's really tough.
Yeah.
So what I have to do is just not think of it, right? It's
Yeah.
like, hey, brain, guess what? I know this is fucked up. We're going to do it anyways. We're going to be okay. You're not going to die. Because once upon a time, I've eaten a beef burger. You know, I never was into bacon. I don't know. Never liked bacon. But regardless, I know that, you know, this, and you know what I've thought of before? Like if they did a blood test on me, would they find animal byproducts in my system because my meat, because my veggie meat is not clean? Like I've thought things like that. You know, like how far do you go? But this is where I only want to enjoy certain things on this earth, and animal products besides fish. I don't want to get into any of that. Like I just don't want it. Like, and I'm okay with that. And I don't want to change anybody else's mind. Because that's what started, is you try to change other people.
Yeah.
Which, you know, in the Hindu religion, they're all like vegetarian mostly. Like cows are sacred to them.
Yeah.
So they don't eat cows. Like
they don't eat pork either, do they?
I don't think they eat any meats. Like not even fish. But
oh, wow.
I can't say that for sure. But from what I know, yeah, they're all vegetarian.
Oh, okay.
Like for the most part. Whereas in other countries, it's like, they're growing pigs at a mass rate so that everybody can have bacon on everything. You know, it's just a different way of living. And so what you choose to indulge in is what you choose to indulge in. Yeah. And yeah, I don't know. I let all of that shit go. So when I got that little piece of bacon, I was just like, Mom, you want this little tiny bacon chunk? And it was like, Crispy was like, yeah, that's it. I couldn't even buy meat at the store. I couldn't even go down the meat aisle. I was like, look at it. That's gross. So
times have changed.
I'm much more relaxed. I'm more like, you do what you can. Live and let live. You do what you can with what you got. And that's it. And each day is a different thing that you do what you can. That's it. I don't try to change the whole world at once anymore.
That's probably good.
That was how I healed that shadow. I decided I can't change the whole world at once.
So now let's talk about some practical ways that we can harness the energy of this,
like Lakshmi with
Lakshmi
Taurus.
And Taurus. Yeah. Lakshmi and Taurus season. Yes. So let's talk about that.
Well, number one, rituals for prosperity. Because if you find a picture of her, or the way that Kat described her, she's got that one hand that's handing out coins, right? This is literally what Lakshmi will do for you, according to beliefs.
Hindu beliefs.
Yeah. And it is a religion, which I don't want to call it a religion, because I feel like it's a more of a spiritual sect, but it does have ideas and maybe rules or like things that they need to abide by. But during Taurus season, to honor Lakshmi with offerings like flowers or incense or coins to invite abundance. So this is why, like, I chose her because I have a small picture of Lakshmi that I printed off the internet that I loved. Like, I looked through all the images and I found one that I really, really liked. And in my prosperity gua in my house, which is basically the prosperity center of my house, her picture is printed out and put into a little canister, and I add money to it and coins. And if I get a lottery ticket, I put it in there. And so, like, anything kind of relating to abundance or prosperity, I just put it in there. And I have moon water over there that's from a certain moon. And so I just add little things. And like, I light the candle and I say things when I light that candle that's like her little altar. But it's an altar for Lakshmi, but it's also an altar for prosperity. Yeah. So I'm combining all these things in my practice. Yeah. So that's what I like to do. Loose change, bills, coins, whatever. It could be anything that I find. Oh, one year I put those little gold covered chocolate things.
Coins, yeah.
Yeah, gold coins that are chocolate inside. Yeah. I filled the whole thing with that. And I was like, listen, chocolate is like luxury, right?
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. So speaking of luxury, you can also create a luxurious environment, like by infusing your space with beauty and comfort, like fresh flowers, beautiful, soft, beautiful fabrics, and beautiful colors.
These green velvet chairs, you guys, this is everything.
And soothing scents. You know, like really nice smells that just make you feel, like you're in a spa maybe or something.
Yeah, I think it's that indulgence into being a physical,
yeah,
in a physical body right now. Like, what does that look like?
yeah.
And for everybody, it's kind of different. You know, I've met women who absolutely hate pedicures. I'm like, I'll take a pedicure any day. Like,
Yeah.
love it. Get my hair done any day. Scalp massage, I'll melt. Like, put me to sleep.
Yeah.
So I have my physical indulgences for this, and everybody does, and just do more of those things, but in your space.
Yes.
So maybe like you seen those things that go like whoosh, whoosh, over your scalp. They look like little spider legs, and you put it at the top of your scalp, and then it goes like over it.
And what does it do?
Feels fucking fantastic.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like somebody, if you like scalp massages, yeah. Now, I don't want to do the work myself, so like I want to relax.
Can someone else rub my head?
Yes, can somebody else just do that? Just brush my hair or whatever. So, you know, putting that in the environment where when you want to go into that space helps you feel connected to your body. Because remember, this is also grounding. And when we feel like we're in our body, we're grounding ourselves.
Well, I really love like a bed full of nice, fluffy pillows with different and pretty sheets and pretty blankets and things like that. And I just like to be like snuggle up in that space with a scented candle. And
see, that's very Lakshmi, very Taurus, very, very, very. So then there's also small gratitude practices, because I think that when we get the things that we desire, having gratitude for them, you know, being able to say like, thank you, or thank the universe, thank a goddess, thank anything, but to have that thanks go through. I mean, we've talked about journaling, like gratitude journals. There's actually a bunch out there that will prompt you to say what you're grateful for, or like to pay attention to things in your life that you don't realize you're grateful for. I did this about 6 or 7 years ago. Somebody gifted me a gratitude journal, and I was like, that's stupid. Like, I'm not going to do this. I don't want to. I just felt like it was another thing to do. But then I read through some of the prompts. Like, I actually opened the book, and it was really neat because it was things you'd never think of. It was like, have gratitude that when you sat in your chair, it didn't break. I was like, what the fuck? New fear unlocked. I was like, I am grateful for that. But you know, like, what? It actually put these things in perspective of how the world could be really fucked up. Like, to have these simple gratitude things, like that your key works in your door every day. And it's these things we absolutely would take for granted, that you're like, oh, I guess that could go wrong. But you don't think about them until somebody says, your fob
quits working for your car.
Oh my God. How about it's 4th of July weekend and your fancy electric fucking kitchen faucet runs out of batteries, or the brain in it dies, and you don't have water in your kitchen because you didn't know that when you bought a fancy fucking faucet that had a brain, if it malfunctioned, you just no longer get water. What? That happened. I was like, I had to bring a hose into my kitchen.
I remember when your faucet went out, and I'm like, what? When the battery goes out, now you don't have water. Yeah, that is a whole new level of appreciation for like turning on the tap and water coming out of it.
This is where I'm like, you know what? I should have just stayed a simple fucking bitch. Like, I should not have tried to buy a fancy fucking faucet that hand motion stuff. They don't tell you that hey, if the brain malfunctions, you just don't get water. You can't just flip a switch and turn on water. It's like, oh, where am I living right now? Yeah. Small gratitude practices. That's all I'm saying. It's acknowledging the little blessings in your life, whatever they are, however small they are. You can wiggle all your toes. You can bend your knees. You can, you know, whatever.
And get out of bed without pain.
See, there you go. Yeah, like you can hear everything, even though it's annoying sometimes. Like, you have a cute hearing. Yeah. So there's little things that you can acknowledge the blessings in your life, and it enhances like the Taurus energy and the Lakshmi energy of flowing abundance into your life.
Yeah, and I just want to say gratitude jars are a really good thing. I feel like gratitude jars, because you can write on little pieces of paper all the things that you're grateful for. So gratitude jar, so that, you know, for little, like, what are you grateful for today? 3 things. Got to be some things you're grateful for. Every day you can find something.
And then the key with those, do you know what the actual trick with those is?
What?
When you feel really low, you start pulling things out of that jar. And it reminds you of what you're grateful for.
Oh,
yeah. So like you can write what you're grateful for when you're in that high, when your vibration's high. When you get to that low, you start pulling them out of the jar so that you can remember what you've been grateful for. Yeah,
I like that.
I know. I again didn't do it, but I read a journal about it.
So another way that you can harness energy is grounding exercises. Oh my gosh. And spending time in nature, planting seeds, and setting intentions for long-term stability, because that's really what that energy, well, Lakshmi herself is like, here's all the things that you need. It's about abundance and prosperity, long-term, right? And then Taurus is also all the things that we do, all the material things in our life, food, our homes, all the beautiful things.
The things that you want to last. Yeah. I think that's with spending time in nature. I just want to say now that it's April and everybody should be warming up, hopefully. And the starting of the seeds, I started seeds. I started some in January. I started some in February. I've got seeds going all the time. Summer for us is actually more of our winter because nothing grows in summer because it's so fucking hot and we don't get enough rain. But my focus is on creating plants that grow and you can harvest before the real summer heat comes in. But so if you're somewhere that doesn't get super hot summers, planting seeds, dude, buy sunflower seeds. Everybody loves sunflowers.
They're the easiest thing in the world
so
to
easy
grow.
Yeah.
You can throw them. You can just throw them out in your yard, and one day you'll look out there and you'll have a 4-foot sunflower in your yard, and you'll be amazed at how beautiful it is. And also, I remember when I planted them the first time in my house in Kansas City. It was on the south side of the house, and I'd never, ever planted sunflower seeds before.
And she lived in Kansas, by the way, which is like, isn't that
the sunflower state or some shit? Yeah. But but anyway, I go out there and these things grew. It seemed like they grew overnight. They got like 4 feet tall, then they were 6 feet tall, then they were 8 feet tall. And I was just like amazed at them. They were like people. They were these massive plants on the side of my house right off of my porch. But the coolest thing about sunflowers, if you've never planted sunflower seeds before, is this. They turn with the sun.
It is so cool.
They literally, like when the sun, they do this and they follow move. The sun. They move. Their
faces. Yeah.
It's the amazing. It is absolutely amazing. So if you're not if you don't have them, you've never done it, and you have a yard, just do it for the experience of seeing that thing.
The sunflowers.
The sunflowers. So
I do some heirlooms. So I've got like 15 different species
of sunflowers.
Of sunflowers. Like I didn't even know there's way more than that, but to have like red ones and dark ones, and they have a black sunflower, and they've got like the huge gold face.
That was the ones that I had, the huge gold face.
I remember seeing a picture of that.
That get like 8 feet tall, and I was
crazy.
like, that was amazing to me. I never expected that.
So plant seeds, and sunflowers are very easy.
And the other thing you can do is, if you don't want to plant seeds, get bulbs and put bulbs in the ground.
Bulbs are good,
Bulbs are really good.
Not in Florida, but in other places.
Yeah, in Kansas City, I just happened to pick up like a bag of gladiola bulbs at Walmart. I don't know what gladiolas are. It showed the picture of them. I'm like, yeah, okay, it's flowers. That's all I care about. Pretty colors on the front of it, right?
And they come back every year.
Yeah,
they're bulbs.
Yeah, because they're bulbs. So what I did is I did not read the instructions, so I just like put them in the ground. And when they started coming up, because when you put the bulb in, you need to place it so that the bulb is pointing up. But they were like growing off and coming out sideways and stuff like that. And they were still really pretty. They got like 4 feet tall with these beautiful blooms on them. Easiest thing ever to grow. Just put the bulbs in the ground the right way.
Like
you can't
upright.
Upright. Yes. Because if you just throw them in there and they're on their side, when they grow, they're going to come out like at an angle.
I'm imagining this as like a sketch where it's just like crisscross flowers in every direction instead of the ones that you see where and I think of tulips, but all of them are like straight up and perfect and it's all beautiful. And you're like, yours are like,
well, I had like a row of them and only a few, most of them were upright because I just happened to get them in the ground the right way. But I didn't know. I didn't realize that there was a right way to plant them.
Oh
but then I had a couple that were like pointing out to the side. And as soon as I saw them, I was like, oh.
You knew?
Oh, I knew.
It clicked like, oh, sorry, buddy.
I knew immediately.
I love the bulb thing. We have like, what I know of the bulb plants we have here there's a rain lily. And that's the only bulb plant that I've really seen here that works successfully, but it has such a short life because it truly is like a rain bulb. It rains, you get a flower, and then it dies again. It's like, I can't survive without water. Yeah.
By working with Lakshmi and Taurus season energy, you can cultivate a rich life with lots of flowers and things like that in it, in material and spiritual abundance.
Definitely. We want to thank you so much for joining us tonight on the Witch's Way podcast as we explore the radiant energy of the goddess Lakshmi and her beautiful alignment with Taurus season.
Lakshmi reminds us that true wealth goes beyond gold. It's found in the beauty of nature, the stability of our relationships, and the abundance we cultivate with love, through love and attention.
I love that. Love and intention.
Love and intention.
As we move through Taurus season, let's channel a little Lakshmi energy to create lives that are not just prosperous, but also meaningful and harmonious, especially with nature in our yard and our surrounding areas.
Absolutely. Until next time, stay grounded, grateful, and as always, stay magical. See you on the next episode, witches.
Bye, witches.
Bye.